Hi, I'm Brady Forrest with O'Reilly Media here at Web2O Summit, and I'm here with the co-founder of Dodgeball, and perhaps more importantly, the co-founder of Foursquare, Dennis Crowley. How's it going?
It's good. How are you? Thanks for having me on your show.
Yeah, totally. Thanks for you just got off stage. How'd that go?
It went pretty well. It was a very quick 15 minutes, but it went pretty well.
Yep. And can you kind of run through some of the stats that you revealed to John?
Yeah, no big stats. I mean, like the general Foursquare stuff is we're over 10 million users now. Mm-hmm. We're over 1 billion check-ins, so we have a lot of data to play with to do the things we want to do. We're over 500,000 merchants that are using the platform. So, and about 80 employees. And so the company's growing.
Wow, 80 employees?
Yeah, it's kind of, and we can't
New
hire
York
them
and
fast
SF,
enough.
right?
Yeah, we've got 15 here and about 65 there, and we got one guy in Europe. So yeah, it's all happening very quickly.
How is that managing?
I'll tell you, it was tough when we first dropped people in San Francisco, and now we're getting better at the remote management thing. One of the things that's really saved us is we have this thing called a portal, which is the biggest TV screen that you could get in the San Francisco office and one in the New York office, and it's just on all day long video conferencing. So that really helps. So it's been good. Like most of product and engineering is run out of New York, and the San Francisco office is mostly engineering. But yeah, it's been working so far.
And
it's Tristan and Holger,
here.
our two biz dev guys, are out there too.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we have an office manager, we have some recruiters. The big question is, when are we going to drop product and design in there? So. I'm sure it will happen inevitably. We haven't figured out when we're going to do that.
So do you have the San Francisco team siloed from the New York teams, or are they kind of all working together?
Yeah, right now they're those guys all work on projects that are based out of New York because we don't have any product folks in San Francisco. Like there's nothing they don't have their own thing yet. That's going to be the next big step. It's like when we drop product people out there, then it's like, oh well, the San Francisco office owns this part of the company. We're kind of doing that with the stuff, all the guys that are working on search are based out of San Francisco. Like the BlackBerry team is going to be based out of San Francisco. So it's starting to happen. It's just we haven't really pushed it yet.
And when you end up recruiting, what companies are you drawing from?
We draw a lot from Google. Almost like a third of the company is ex-Googlers, which is great because we all know how to work together. It's a high quality of people. We've been able to get there's been a couple folks from Twitter, and then we're getting a lot of new recruits. We've been doing a lot of aggressive college recruiting, and it's been working out pretty well so far.
And what's what size is your data team? I mean, you guys are built on data.
Yeah, the data team, it's like 4 guys right now. I mean, it's it's so funny. Like we're accomplishing so much with such small teams. Like 80 people is a lot, but there's 40 engineers, and it's 4 guys on this, 4 guys on this, 5 guys on this. So they're relatively small teams that are just running very quickly. When we look at the things that we really need to double down on, it's the team that's working on merchant stuff, the team that's working on all the data analytics, all the machine learning stuff, and of course the infrastructure team as well. There's not one group that's going to go through a lot of growth. It's the whole company is just going to grow. So.
And when you do merchant analytics, is that merchant services? Are you looking for people to actually reach out to merchants, or is this more about product?
Yeah,
making it self-serve.
We haven't done that yet. We don't have a sales team, right? So we've got a couple biz dev guys that are responsible for a lot of the inbound requests. And then we've set up self-service tools that allow merchants to come in and say, hey, this is my coffee shop, I want to claim it, and I want to run a special against it. Yeah. And that's been working pretty well. We're over 500,000 merchants that way. Whether we do.
And are any of them paying you at this point?
No, we're not generating revenue from merchants right now. I mean, that's the long-term strategy for the company. That's what we're going to be doing in the future. It's just we're still working on building those tools and finding just the right tools that are really going to drive customers for merchants.
Yeah. Now, last week you guys dropped a pretty big release in tune with iOS 5.
Yeah,
Can you talk about that?
Yeah, we launched Foursquare Radar last week, which is really it's stuff that we've been thinking about doing for years, since my grad school days and since before the Dodgeball days. Really just having an app in your pocket that sniffs out all the interesting things that are going on nearby, filters them, and then can buzz you and let you know, hey, this is the thing that you need to pay attention to. And that thing can be, hey, 6 of your friends are here, or this is your buddy's favorite coffee shop, or hey, you should go around the corner and check out this cool piece of art. But trying to use software to replicate the experience of walking down the street with a buddy that really knows the city very well.
Does it pay attention to sudden spikes of check-ins?
Yeah,
this place is swarming?
It pays attention to swarming, and it pays attention to how many friends are at a particular place. It pays the best part is it pays attention to what places are popular at what time of the day, right? Okay. So you're not going to get pinged for coffee at 10 o'clock at night, but you'll get pinged oh, this is your buddy's best favorite coffee shop. You'll get that in the morning time, and you'll get lunch places at lunchtime. And Like it's working pretty well.
So it looks at when your friends actually check into the place.
It looks at when your friends, and it looks at like the Foursquare ecosystem as a whole.
Okay.
As like checking into places. Like
And
every place is like a little graph, right?
Mm-hmm. Are you only using Foursquare data, or will you eventually start to like aggregate in?
Yeah,
check-ins from Facebook and
yeah,
Yelp
we've been thinking about
Instagram
like,
photos,
do we want
to
do we want to reach into other data sources and use that to power what we're doing? I think maybe long term that makes a lot of sense. Like right now, the team is so short-staffed that we are just trying to deal with our data pool. Like when that team is 20 people, like I bet they're doing all sorts of crazy stuff with it. I wouldn't count that out.
Now, when I went to turn it on, it was like buried in settings. Like I had trouble finding it actually.
Really,
So,
right in the main screen, in the upper left-hand corner, there's a little radar icon. And so we just really you didn't notice it.
No.
Oh.
I knew we'd be talking about radar, and I hadn't seen any recommendations. So I went to profile.
Oh, well,
then went to the gears, and then turned it on.
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about.
That's the buried setting, like right in the main screen. It's on the upper left-hand corner, and we did it so like you can easily turn it on and off. Like in case you're very low on battery and you don't want to, the additional battery hit, you can turn it off. In case you're getting too many for some reason, you can turn it off. But
Got it.
It's like it's supposed to be just on all the time and letting you know what's happening.
Huh. I feel like an idiot now.
Don't worry, I'll show you on your phone after this. We'll do a little technical
thanks.
support
I appreciate
section.
that.
Yeah. Well, it makes me feel bad. I'm like, man, maybe we didn't call it out as much as we should have. But people have been turning it on, so it might be
I got my
user
first
error.
recommendation after I flipped it on. So
yeah, it's like anything like that. It feels kind of magical the first time that it really works. Like this story I was telling on stage. Like I left work one night. I was just going to go home, and then I got a buzz that hey, 7 of your friends are at this place around the corner. And the way that technically works is, there's a circle that gets, imagine like a circle on a map that gets bigger and bigger depending on how many people check in. And then, my dot just walked through that circle, and so the phone decides, oh, now it's time to buzz you with something. And it's awesome. I'm like, I would never have stopped by. I would never have met up with those friends. And it's like, reproducing a lot of the cool serendipitous magic stuff I think that we did back in the early Dodgeball days and the early Foursquare days, and it's just doing it on a much greater level, a much more interesting level.
And just to start to wrap it up, we met back in 200005 at eTech.
I was going to say 2004 maybe.
No.
Was it 5?
It was 2005. I was still at Microsoft.
All right.
And Dodgeball had just started.
Yeah, we go way back.
Yeah.
So
like, what's the climate like for doing a startup then versus now?
Yeah, it's apples and oranges. Like when we were doing Dodgeball, like I don't think we really, we weren't very good at what we were doing.
It was just you and Alex,
right?
It
was just Alex and I.
Who's now at Foursquare.
Yeah, he runs product for us. But like it was right after, I think people were still feeling burned from the .com days, and so it wasn't very easy to get capital. Like we couldn't raise any money for Dodgeball whatsoever, and so that's one of the reasons that we ended up going to Google. It's like, hey, these guys are going to let us continue to work on what we want to work on. This time around, I think just because like we had a hit under our belt and we had a really clear direction of what we wanted to do with Foursquare, and then obviously the climate's a lot different. There's a lot more people that were interested in investing in East Coast startups. It's just we were able to get great investors on very early, and they've been continue to be incredibly supportive.
So that's kind of the funding side, but what about the technology?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I
would have followed up with that. Consumer technology side.
Yeah, the tech side, it's also kind of night and day. Like Dodgeball was, like it was text messages, and it wasn't even text message. Like you were sending email masking as a text message, and now like look at the stuff that we're doing with Radar. Like we're using the phone as a sensor and doing all this background processing to let you know about interesting things nearby. So it's it's not only is this happening on the phone, it's using our recommendation engine, it's using all the check-ins that we've been getting, and so I mean there's a lot going on in the thing, and we couldn't even do this 6 weeks ago, never mind 6 years ago. So it's the advances that are happening with mobile phones, with mobile phone OSs, and also just the way that people think about using apps. Like Siri is going to change everything for people because like, hey, you can search now with your voice. You don't have to type in words into a little search box. Like that's going to train a whole bunch of people. Like there's a different way to use your phone. And I think that Radar is kind of piggybacking off of some of that. Like, hey, this is another new way to use your phone. Just turn it on and walk around. Like you don't have to have the phone in front of you all the time.
How would you want to integrate Foursquare with Siri?
I think, anytime you can, if we could use Siri to query Foursquare data, that'd be great. Like, where is Brady right now? What is the best coffee shop around here? Like, those results are coming from elsewhere right now, but if they pulled off of Foursquare data, it'd be much more valuable. I think it'd be a much better experience. So we're waiting for those APIs to open up, and we're really excited about that.
Yep. And what, other than the Siri APIs opening up, what else would you want Apple or Google to do? Like what is kind of holding Foursquare back?
You know, as good as the new stuff is, like, you know, GPS still is a little bit wonky.
Yeah,
like it takes a little while to heat it up. Like there's a lot of, you know, sometimes the accuracy isn't what you want it. Like we're making the best that we can with the given technology. I think that like a lot of the ideas that we're pushing are a little bit ahead of what the tech can really do very well right now. The other stuff I'm excited about is like when I can sniff out what's going on in a particular room, right?
Yep.
You know, when the device, like right now it can't sniff your device or anyone else's devices here, but I think when you can get that sense and like your phone can know that like, oh, I'm with 3 people, so I'm going to tailor the recommendations for the 3 people that I'm walking in the same direction with at the same speed right now. Like that's a big thing, and like that it just doesn't exist yet. I'm not sure when that's going to be out, but
yeah, proximity is not quite there yet.
Yeah, I mean, because there's all sorts of privacy implications around it. Like no one wants to sniff other people's phones, but at some point there'll be a you know, acceptable way to do that. I don't know what that method is, but when it is, we'll take advantage of it for all sorts of things.
Yeah. Well, cool. Thanks a lot, Dennis.
Thanks for having me on the show. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, totally.